In the 1997 drama, Dante's Peak, Pierce Brosnan arrives in a town only to discover that the long-dormant volcano may wake up at any moment. Of course, the hero and his family survive, and the volcano ceases erupting. But a podcast by Flash Forward suggested that if the 1,500 potentially active volcanoes worldwide really did all erupt at the same time, it could lead to a devastating doomsday scenario. The Earth currently has 1,500 active volcanoes, meaning they have had at least one eruption during the past 10,000 years. This is aside from the continuous belt of volcanoes on the ocean floor, about 500 of which have erupted in historical time. However, not all eruptions are the same. Dr. Matthew Watson, a volcano specialist from the University of Bristol told, "You can broadly categorize eruptions into two different types. The first, effusive, produces lava flows and lots of gas. The second, explosive, produces ash and gas. The difference in activity is controlled mostly by the viscosity of the magma. The more viscous the magma, the more difficult it is to get gas out of the system and the more likely you are to have an explosion." Despite the type of eruptions differing massively, if all the world's volcanoes erupted at the same time, the results would be catastrophic in a number of ways. Initial damage in areas near the volcanoes. Firstly, the people in the firing line of the eruption would be affected, not only by the flow of magma from the volcano, but also from the huge ash clouds expelled. Pyroclastic flows are fast-moving clouds of rock, ash and gas that are very hot, with temperatures rising up to 1,000 degrees Celsius. These would be impossible to outrun or even drive, as they can travel up to 450 miles per hour. As well as affecting people near the volcano itself, pyroclastic flows can cause destruction for up to 100 miles from the site. The number of people living near volcanoes that this would affect is massive. For example, around 3 million people live near Mount Vesuvius, while 130 million people live on the island of Java, which alone has 45 active volcanoes. The far-reaching damage but the destruction close to the volcanoes would just be the beginning. The eruptions would send plumes of volcanic ash into the sky that could travel for thousands of miles. Dr. Watson said, "Ash is pretty unpleasant stuff. It's comprised of tiny fragments of glass, crystals and rock. You may remember the worldwide flight cancellations caused by the 2010 eruption of Eyjafjallajökull in Iceland, in the fears of damage to airplane engines. As well as the potential damage to engines, volcanic ash is so heavy that it could actually collapse buildings, by piling up and slowly sinking the foundations. Breathing in ash can cause massive problems to our lungs, including silicosis, and damage that sends our immune systems into overdrive, leading to a range of secondary problems. Essentially, there would be no buildings, no vehicles run by an engine, and you would not be able to go anywhere without a gas mask. To add to this, communication channels would be out of the question. Ash can disrupt satellite dishes and block radio waves. Long-lasting climate change. The volcanic eruptions would cause long-lasting changes to the Earth's climate. While we usually associate volcanoes with being hot, the huge amount of ash and gas released into the atmosphere would actually lower the temperature globally. Dr. Watson said, the initial injection of sulfur dioxide, converted to small particles called aerosols in the presence of water, would reflect sunlight back out into space. This would cool the planet significantly, potentially even to get to ice age-like conditions. However, in the longer term, we could see a reverse effect with temperatures rising. Dr. Watson added, over hundreds of years, carbon dioxide released by volcanoes might heat the planet up, noting that currently, mankind is producing between 50 and 100 times as much carbon dioxide as volcanoes. In 1815, Mount Tambora in Indonesia erupted. This one eruption can be seen in global climate records, lowering temperatures worldwide and causing heavy rain which ruined crops. If one eruption can have that effect, we can only begin to imagine what destruction would be caused if all 1,500 active volcanoes went off simultaneously. How to survive while planning can help. Unfortunately, much of your chance of survival is down to luck. If you are unlucky and happen to be in the vicinity of an erupting volcano, no amount of prepping can save you. In the short term, the best place to survive could actually be a cruise ship in the middle of the ocean. Cruise ships are armed with food, medical supplies, and clean water, but most importantly, are usually not near any volcanoes. While you would eventually need to return to land for supplies, at least in the short term you would survive the initial impact. To prepare for any catastrophic event, the most important thing is having adequate supplies of food and water. However, with a volcanic eruption, there are a few other necessities to factor in. The skies will be covered in ash, making it very dark, and inhibiting sunlight reaching us. This lack of sunlight could prevent us getting enough vitamin D, which is crucial for calcium absorption. Additionally, a lack of sunlight could also affect your serotonin production, resulting in anxiety and depression. With global temperatures dropping, a good supply of warm clothes would also be crucial. However, Dr. Watson added, hypothetically, if every volcano on Earth erupted simultaneously, you could argue that all life might well be wiped out. In that sense, it is a doomsday scenario, just very, very unlikely.